Hey guys, with the release of BDO's first dungeon, I've heard many good and bad things about it. A lot of the complaints revolved around deaths and crystal loss, but I'm here today to give you some tips and tricks to help with navigating the dungeon, reduce the risk of dying, and inform you guys on how to clear the elites and mini-bosses with relative ease. This is not a dungeon guide, so I will not be going over any of the puzzles or the main questline. For that, I would recommend watching Chris Polly's guide on it. To start, I would recommend getting familiar with using the ping location hotkey. This made a world of a difference in terms of coordination with my party members. As soon as I started using this function, my party members were much quicker to respond to specific callouts and managing positions. By default, this is the tilde key next to the 1 key on your keyboard. Pressing this on its own, however, will only ping guild members. To ping party members, you must hold the shift plus tilde key. This is quite awkward for me, so I had it rebound to a side mouse button, which allowed me to easily move my character and party ping at the same time. You can find this under miscellaneous hotkeys under the interface settings called Display Guild Members Location. This next tip unfortunately requires someone in the party to have Laffy Bed Mountain's upgraded compass, which allows you to summon party members to the holder's location. Normally, you cannot use the compass inside the dungeon, but I have found a loophole where you can use the compass in Ancient Stone Chamber. Go into the dungeon, and your party members can accept the summon to directly teleport into the dungeon without needing a key. This works because the summon location is wherever the holder of the compass is at the time the party members take the summon. The dungeon can be unforgiving, so preparing yourself is extremely important if you want to efficiently clear it without struggling. For consumables, I would highly recommend running a party elixir rotation, as that will give you the most amount of stats for your entire party. Essential elixirs to use are Sharp Detection, Lethal Assassin, Grim Soul, Strong Draining, Remarkable Will, and Endless Fury elixirs. Other elixirs you might want to consider but are not necessarily needed are Strong Life, Steel Defense, Splendid Helix, and Strong Shock elixirs. As for perfumes, I would recommend Calx elixirs as a priority over other perfumes. You might already have a bunch from stocked up premium elixir boxes. If you don't, any other perfumes of your choice will be fine. Of course, also grab some church buffs and optionally a furniture buff of your choice. These next tips pertain to the different elites you'll encounter throughout the dungeon. We'll go over each elite and its mechanics on how to efficiently kill them. The first elite we'll go over is the Monoceros. This elite looks kind of like a dinosaur or a rhino. Its mechanic involves the steam vents you'll see on the ground. They look like little red cracks in the ground if they are not already steaming. If the Monoceros is allowed to stay on the steam vent for long enough, its shell will become cracked and take significantly more damage. The next elite is the Cetus. It is this construct-like figure that will periodically hop backwards like a frog. Keep attacking it and eventually it will give this alert about recharging its power engine. This is your cue to run up to it and use a floating CC attack. This will interrupt, stun it, and cause it to take significantly more damage. The next elite is the Lacerta. It has a big round torso and holds a staff. Its mechanic involves the minions around it. Continuously attacking it will cause it to periodically blink around, so I would advise just waiting. Make sure there are at least a few minions around the Lacerta, and it will eventually do this alert about bestowing ancient power to nearby monsters. This is your cue to use a knockdown skill to knock it to the ground, and then it will take significantly more damage. My group personally just skips the Lacerta elite while making her way to Vaha Storm, since its mechanic takes much longer than the other elites. The next elite is the Creomar. This mob is probably the easiest in terms of mechanics, but the most dangerous one to deal with. After a little while of being aggroed, it will slam the ground and start pulsating AoE, which can ramp up in damage very quickly. To disable it, you must deal enough back attack damage to disrupt it, which will cancel the final blast attack and cause it to take significantly more damage. next elite only appears in Vaha Storm and is called the Putrakium. It is the bird-like construct that many players have probably died to due to its mechanic requiring you to use the dungeon matchlock and becoming overwhelmed by the flocks of birds. I would advise at least 2 to 3 people to pick up the dungeon matchlock, which you can exchange for at these Solmagias using 2 cold thorns. When you see the alert saying that it's communing with the smaller birds in the sky, you'll see about 5 to 6 birds spawn, which you'll need to shoot down with the dungeon matchlock. Once you kill all the birds, an alert will say that the Putrakium has failed to commune with the birds, becomes stunned, and then takes significantly more damage. If you do not do this, barrages of lightning will strike you down and constantly CC you. With these 5 elites mentioned, it is extremely important that not more than 3 elites should be within a short vicinity of each other. Otherwise, they will gain a massive damage buff, which can easily overwhelm and kill you. The boss elite in Vaha Storm is called Kratenn. It is a double axe-wielding construct with no legs, which drops the searing heart piece. I've seen many people die to this part of the dungeon due to people most likely being overwhelmed by mobs in this area. Make sure you aren't dealing with elites at the same time fighting this boss to reduce the risk of dying. To deal with this boss very quickly, you should assign at least 2 to 3 people with the dungeon matchlock while fighting this boss. When you see this alert about focusing its energy to make the surface explode, have the people with the matchlock start shooting the boss. If enough shots hit the boss during this, it will become stunned and take significantly more damage. The boss elite in Vaha's head is called Ahtenn. When Ahtenn is spawned, he will eventually give an alert saying that he's communing with one of the towers. If he is allowed to do so, he will restore a good portion of his HP and gain a stacking permanent attack and defense buff. To prevent this, make sure to destroy the specific tower he is communing with. You can easily do this by just sending people to the 3 different towers and constantly reduce their HPs to 0. This will guarantee his mechanic to fail and he'll take significantly more damage until he dies. If you have a group with high enough DPS, you can skip this and burst him down, which is what we did. If you've done the main questline for Atoraxxion already, subsequent dungeon runs pretty much only require you to have 10 cold thorns, 1 Kratenn kill, and 1 Ahtenn kill to get all the mats needed to access the final room. If done efficiently, you can clear this dungeon in under 30 minutes with a competent group. I would say this is a very worth once a week clear for the weekly Elvia chest. You can also opt to run a normal run on a second character to get the normal chest. I'm not going to go over the final boss in this video. I think there are already so many guides out there on how to defeat it, but if there's demand, I might also make a short dedicated tips video on it. This brings us to the end of the video. If there are any other tips you think that are useful for clearing this dungeon, let everyone know in the comments below. I'd like to thank my Patreons who are and have been still supporting me the past few months. These people include Tyler Sapp, Dan L, Chris, MineCroco, Squish, Irosuri, Uekiya, and TeamJo. I hope to continue to make content for BDO for a long time. If you'd also like to support me on Patreon, please check out the description down below. Good luck, adventurer.